Hello and welcome to the third and the Don Football Show. I am Joe. With me is Cecil, as always, to talk some NFL football. It's been a crazy season so far. We don't know what's happening every week, and it's been fun to watch. Cecil, how are you doing?
I'm great. It was a really exciting week of football. I mean, for the game I was at, I went to Bengals Falcons, and that was an absolutely great game for me. But, I guess the rest of the games really weren't that great. So I had a fun time, and that's what matters.
Okay.
And I'm ready to talk about more football.
Well, your happiness is all that matters to this podcast. We're very happy. You were happy. Let's get started with our recap of Week 7, Cease. Thursday night football game we watched together at a bar, and it was Cardinals beating the Saints 42-34. This was the day the campaign for the new Call of Duty game came out, so it's a big win for Kyler Murray, getting the monkeys off his back there for the Call of Duty haters. And this one, I think, mostly comes down to the fact that Andy Dalton threw 3 picks, 2 pick sixes in this game. Not all of them were his fault. Some of them hit his receivers' hands. But you just can't do that. You can't give a team 2 defensive touchdowns and expect to win. I think it doesn't really get me like motivated about the Cardinals at all because of the way things went. It doesn't have me down about the Saints as much when they get Jameis Winston back, even though they are 2-5. But these are two teams that really aren't playing that well for whatever the circumstances may be.
Yeah, I mean, the Bird Gauntlet is very perilous, and unfortunately, the Saints were not able to complete it due to the ineptitude of Andy Dalton in a lot of places. Yeah, I mean, you can't. It's hard to win a game when you get down by 2 pick sixes like that.
Hmm.
That's pretty much unnavigatable if you're a quarterback and you're an offense. I mean, and then they threw another interception on top of that. That's a lot of turnovers, and that's a lot of points off turnovers that'll kill you. So yeah, I mean, they were out of this game for most of it. Andy Dalton padded some stats by the end just because they had to keep throwing and trying to score the ball. But ultimately, Cardinals, like you said, offense really didn't do that much. They ran the ball well with, Benjamin. And, I mean, from there, you get 14 points from your defense. You don't really have to worry as much on offense. Maybe you went and played Call of Duty, right after the game. I mean, he probably did. That's probably what he does. He cracks open a nice Gatorade and puts on the headset, starts playing some Call of Duty, obviously. But DeAndre Hopkins was back, and for some reason, basically the Cardinals are like somehow magically good if DeAndre Hopkins just appears upon the field. He is a really good receiver in the NFL to this day, so we'll see how that bodes as he gets back into the offense and if it will actually be meaningful. Because I mean, the Cardinals have looked pretty inept up into this game, and in this game you're playing Andy Dalton on Thursday night. You're probably supposed to win if you have a quarterback you're paying as much money as Kyler Murray. So they get the win, it was pretty easily, and it was a pretty boring game otherwise, besides just horrible, horrible passing game of the Saints.
Definitely, and see, Kyler Murray may have downloaded the Call of Duty campaign Thursday night, like while the game was going on, and then he went home and played afterwards. It was a home game for the Cardinals, so this week might be the week we actually have to pay attention to and see if he's going to be bad at football again. So we'll keep tabs on that. That'll be part of our picks, of course. Let's move on to Sunday, Seas. That game you mentioned that you were at, the Bengals win 35-17. To me, this is the sign that the offense is back, right? The Falcons aren't the greatest team, but they've been very, very scrappy this year, beating teams like the 49ers, sticking with some teams all the way through. They're 3-4 after this loss. The passing game was great. We're going out of the shotgun a lot more often. Tyler Boyd had a big game. The defense had a rough stretch at the end of the second quarter, but at the end of the day, this was a really good performance for the Bengals, who seem like they have it figured out. Don't want to jump the gun and say they're going to go make the Super Bowl again or anything, but they seem like they're getting back to what they were last year.
Yeah, and I mean, it was pretty much domination for the Bengals from start to finish. I mean, they could have probably scored even more points in the fourth quarter if they wanted to. They just, ate clock out for basically 10 minutes, and that was the end of it. But I mean, the explosive plays were there from the onset with Tyler Boyd on that huge, touchdown reception early on. And from there, the defense, secondary of the Falcons had some injuries. Their number one corner was out, and then AJ Terrell, their number two, went out early in the game. So they did have some injuries. I'm not going to say they didn't, but the Bengals definitely capitalized on those and just absolutely wreaked havoc in that secondary of the Falcons. They couldn't really stop them. The Bengals, whether it was explosive play or methodical drive down the field, I mean, there was nothing really the Falcons could do. The Falcons really couldn't play the game plan they wanted to do, which was establish the run, have that power run game they've been so good at the last couple weeks. I mean, you go down by 21-0, you can't really run the ball as much. They had one good drive in the second quarter. They got 7 points, and then Eli Apple blew a coverage. There was a miscommunication apparently, and he got beat deep on a fast score of theirs, and that was pretty much it. The only other interesting thing is the defense of the Bengals is yet to give up a touchdown in the second half of this season, which is pretty impressive. And there might be some cornerback competition finally for Eli Apple because Cam Taylor-Britt went in and out, and the coaching staff is kind of talking about how they're wanting to get him more reps. So that could be kind of an open competition. And if Eli Apple isn't performing to the way they like, they might throw Cam Taylor-Britt in there as well. So that's something to look out for if you're a Bengals fan. Look out for on the defense. That's probably their weakest point is there. They had some key pieces of the run defense out. DJ Reader's been out, obviously. Logan Wilson hurt his shoulder last week. They were both out of this game. And, the backups, the defensive tackles really stepped in. They picked up Jay Tueffel, from the Jaguars off the streets on waivers. Fourth-round pick last year, 2 years ago. The Bengals, they look very good. This is what they're going to be doing going forward. Something of this nature. The offense is going to click like this, and the defense is going to continue to do what they've been doing all year. They're a very dangerous team. They can play with anybody if they play like this. It's what we saw at the end of last year as well. If they can capture that and get that figured out, which it looks like they're doing, this team can be very good. Everyone knows that. This is kind of what the expectation was going into the year, that we would see this from the onset, but it seems like there were a lot of factors between Joe Burrow's emergency appendectomy, the offensive line needing to gel, and just, that whole overall not getting as much live reps because you had to play so long into the postseason. So it's good to see them get back on track. And, if you're this Falcons team, this is a clear example of, it's great if you want to be a run-heavy team, but you can't get down if you do. You got to be able to do some concepts pretty well with your quarterback.
Yeah, definitely they got to figure out the quarterback position. Bengals, as you said, getting back to it. They have some easier games coming up on the schedule, so they could be on a little bit of a run here. If you had the Bengals over at the start of the year, you might be very happy. All right, the Cowboys beat the Lions 24-6. This was Dak Prescott's return. This was not the cleanest game for Dak Prescott, but he does have a plate in his throwing thumb. I think it's going to take a while to get ready. The defense for the Cowboys showed they're elite. They totally shut down the Lions. This is a game for that week. I don't want to go too much farther into it just because I think the Cowboys were expected to win, but the Lions might be looking for a new coach next year, as much as it pains me to say it.
Yeah, it's just not been pretty. There's been a lot of adversity with injuries to them. Even in this game, Amon-Ra St. Brown goes out in the second drive with concussion-like symptoms. They ruled afterwards that he probably pretty much didn't have a concussion, but they want to be on the safe side, which I understand. And from there, they played close for most of the game, and then in the second half, the Cowboys turned it on and scored a lot of points. It was 6-3 at one point for a lot of the game. So, you can't have people fumbling in the red zone near the goal line. It's stupid mistakes that will kill a coach, and I can see why Dan Campbell is throwing his headset on the ground. Because that shit can't happen. It's just that plain and simple. Any coach will tell you that right now. You cannot turn over the ball in the red zone. You're literally just giving away points for no reason in a close game. So, yeah, I don't know how much time the Lions are going to give Dan Campbell at this rate, because clearly Jared Goff has regressed back, and everything they built on early in the year has seemingly fallen apart, and that's what we see in a lot of these teams as they continue to lose throughout the season, is players give up. Players aren't playing hard, and they're not coming in there, and they're making dumb mistakes because they're just not fully in tune with what's going on. You start losing the locker room, and then from there, your head coach gets fired. So I'm hoping they turn it around, because I like Dan Campbell just as a personality to have around the NFL as a coach. But, the Lions team just needs to play a lot better, and they need to limit these critical mistakes, because it's killing them. And there's no real other way around it other than to just say they need more discipline.
They do. I will give Dan Campbell a little bit of a stay of execution. I don't think firing a coach midseason is the way to go when you're not projected to make the playoffs anyway. Let him finish out the year, see what happens. But also, they've played a very tough schedule so far. So they lost against the Eagles. Obviously, the Eagles are still undefeated. They beat the Commanders, a game that probably was their best chance at winning the whole way through. Lost to the Vikings, are playing very well. Lost to the Seahawks, who have Geno Smith playing very well. Lost at the Patriots. Bailey Zappi, that game was pretty bad, but the Patriots still have a solid defense most weeks. We'll get into that recap later. And then lose to the Cowboys. That's a tough schedule to start the year. There's not many gimmies on that schedule. But he's got to turn around fast if he wants to stay the coach of the Lions next year. Next game up, Cease, we have the Titans beating the Colts 19-10. This was a very, very boring game. The Titans had control. They tried to kill the clock with Derrick Henry. They effectively did so. The Colts score 10 points. Some of it was in garbage time. Really just never was quite like a game that you wanted to turn on necessarily because the offense just never got going for either team. This game made the Colts bench Matt Ryan for Sam Ehlinger, so that's something new to go to Sam Ehlinger, who's, in my opinion, not the greatest quarterback, but that shows you how bad Matt Ryan's arm has been. They then came out with the report that he had a shoulder sprain and that they were going to bench him regardless of the injury happening or not. So the Colts are in disarray. The Titans, it's boring. They won, but that's what the Titans do.
Yeah, they controlled the ball, like you said. They did what they needed to do to win in a key, divisional game. Like, you need to win those games, especially with how tight the AFC South has looked so far. But yeah, Matt Ryan looked completely lifeless out there. It's just that simple. I don't think Sam Ehlinger is going to be any better. That's the problem. It's not like you have a backup that has a lot of potential. No one talks about how good of an arm or, really anytime you hear about Sam Ehlinger, they do never talk about his physical traits at all. They say he has the intangibles, which usually means the guy can't throw. He's not very accurate. He doesn't make good decisions with the ball. So, we'll see how it plays out. I guess, it seems like a very Jim Irsay kind of move to just go, I'm tired of this quarterback too. I want try somebody else. So, yeah, Matt Ryan really regressed really quickly out of nowhere. I guess the writing was on the wall when they really couldn't get any more than a third-round pick for a former MVP quarterback, where usually the market is crazy high for quarterbacks in general. So, we talked about last year. The Falcons probably waited too long on Matt Ryan. They waited till there's pretty much nothing left in the tank, and his value really diminished because of that. So the Colts still took it up. They took a third-round pick. They took a gamble because they had no other option because they didn't want Carson Wentz anymore, and they really haven't done a good job of trying to draft a quarterback in the future. And in this draft, they had plenty of opportunity to do so. I understand Kenny Pickett was in the first round, and some of these other guys, their very degree of talent was questionable. But you look at Malik Willis or somebody like that who at least shows signs of maybe having potential. Maybe draft a guy like that in the third round, said Matt Ryan, or make something happen. Get a quarterback that you can develop behind Matt Ryan. Because let's be honest, even if he did have a good year this year, they need a quarterback that's young they can develop immediately. Because at most, even if he played well this year, we're talking another 2 to 3 years max that he would have any arm talent left at all.
Absolutely. The Colts need to make an offer to the Eagles for Gardner Minshew, late round pick, whatever, 5th, 6th round pick. The Eagles are going for the Super Bowl run possibly, and maybe they want to get some draft picks for the future, even though they have some extra ones. And Mac Jones, Patriots, maybe controversy, offer a trade to them maybe too. This season is still salvageable with that defense and that running game if it gets going traditionally. I do think the thing Sam Ehlinger, if they use him like a running quarterback, if they do some read options and just treat him like he is, which to me is a disposable quarterback they can just throw out at the end of the season, then they can win some games like this. They can do, I don't want to call it the Tim Tebow thing, but they can do the Tim Tebow thing where they just run the ball a lot, pick up a lot of yards, kill the clock, and they kind of like eke out games. So that's what I would want to see from them the rest of the way if they don't make one of those trades. But it is definitely going to be tough with Sam Ehlinger at quarterback to continue to win and win this division now that they are down to 3-3 and the Titans are up to 4-2. All right, the Commanders beat the Packers 23-21. Taylor Heineke had kind of a rough first half, but he bounced back in the second half. He's a gamer, man. He's so much more fun to watch than Carson Wentz. He'll have some good throws, he'll have some bad throws, but you're always watching the TV when Taylor Heineke's playing. I'll tell you that much. The Packers got a lot more criticism this week because now they're 3-4 because they did not run the ball very much. I believe Aaron Jones got 8 carries. I think A.J. Dillon got 4 carries. They did get Aaron Jones involved in the passing game a little bit as well, which is why if he's on your roster in fantasy, he probably had a pretty good day because he had 2 touchdowns. But there's just a lot of issues, and seems to me at this point the body language of Aaron Rodgers has gotten out of control, and it's he might get this thing righted, the ship righted, but at the same time, it looks like he's just frustrated to be there as much as Tom Brady is in Tampa Bay. But like it just looks like he's frustrated to be there, and it looks like the teammates just aren't picking up on the things he wants them to pick up on right now. So there's a lot of blame to go around. But as we said last week, the Packers are a bad football team.
Yeah, I mean they spent a lot of draft capital, a lot of their signings and who they kept and didn't keep. A lot of that was based on how they wanted to morph this team into a power run team with a really good defense, and then a good, MVP level, Hall of Fame quarterback in the back that if they need to, he could win you games in the final drive. That was the vision. What has happened is pretty much none of that. The defense has been okay, not anything spectacular for how many draft picks they spent on it. Aaron Rodgers has no receivers really, and he also has shown no real ability or want to work with the younger receivers. They did try to draft him. Um, he's a great quarterback. He's a Hall of Fame quarterback, but I wouldn't say he's necessarily a great leader at this point. And I mean, that's a big thing with quarterback. You think a lot of times quarterback is synonymous with leader. They're the captain of the football team. They're the ones that all the plays go through. They're the ones lining everyone up. Naturally, leadership qualities are a very important part of the position. Aaron Rodgers really hasn't shown that this season. Aaron Rodgers has just shown how frustrated he is, how upset he is, and it's just something as a leader you can't show that to everyone around you is how upset and frustrated you are with everyone. It's not conductive to anyone getting really that much better. It's one of the things that's always really annoyed me about Tom Brady as well. Is just this air of it's one thing to be on top of players and to, give them that tough love to say. It's another thing to be breaking tablets every couple games because you're frustrated because you can't contain yourself. Mm-hmm. And then you chalk it off to he's emotional, like he's really driven. See Peyton Manning would give his offensive line plenty of words. If you watch old NFL film tape and stuff and read old stories, Peyton Manning would get fired up. Peyton Manning didn't get so visibly frustrated constantly on the field. He wasn't sitting around going absolutely insane around everyone around him. So, I mean, it's a big part of the position. It's one that starts to get overlooked when, you have elite level, arm talent, accuracy, all those different things. And I think that's really what's coming into play here is Aaron Rodgers has been given a lot of adversity with his receiving corps. And instead of rising that challenge, he's just getting visibly frustrated and is shutting down. And it's very bad football. Randall Cobb's also hurt now, so one of his most trusted targets. And again, you try to go to the run game, and they just didn't use it in this game at all. You have A.J. Dillon, you have Aaron Jones. Both are really good running backs. I honestly, with the lack of receiver depth and talent you have right now, I don't know why both of them aren't always on the field pretty much together at this point. I mean, there should be a handful of plays where, A.J. Dillon or Aaron Jones, you do two-back formation or you slide one out to the slot. Let's do some creative things with two different running backs. They don't know who's going to get the ball. They don't know what's happening. Be creative with your play calling. Use what your strength is, which is right now your running back. Your receivers are not that great. Your run game has the potential to be. And I know they've had injuries on the offensive line as well. David Bakhtiari it just doesn't look like a good situation. It looks like he's getting older and he's not really able to recover from all the injuries he has had, which is a huge blow to the Packers as well. But ultimately, this team, and its success, fairly or unfairly, a lot of it is focused on the quarterback. And a lot of the players on the team are going to look to the quarterback with what the message is. If Aaron Rodgers' message is basically, this team sucks and I'm frustrated and that's basically my answer. It's going to kind of domino effect through the whole team. And it's starting to show a little bit. And ultimately, I don't know what other work they need to do, if he needs to somehow work with these receivers, what they're allowed to do with, player association with practicing and what they're allowed to do and not do on and off the field. But something's got to be done, and one of the things too is Aaron Rodgers has got to change his attitude. He's got to change it quick. Or the team's just only going to get worse.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, they're a bad team right now. Can they turn this around? I think they can. I think they can be a solid team. Are they going to win the Super Bowl? Maybe not. But the whole doom and gloom thing, it does look bad. And I would not pick them in any games coming up in a lot of regards just because of how things look. But they can turn it around. It's just, you're right. I think Aaron Rodgers has to change the things around and be more of a teacher and a leader rather than someone who's just getting visibly frustrated. And I understand it's tough. It really is. Now he needs people who he can rely on. The guys are getting hurt, like Grendel Cobb, who he can rely on. But at the end of the day, he's got to find a way to do it if he wants to make the playoffs this year. All right, the Panthers beat the Buccaneers 21-3. Cease. Not something we saw coming. The Panthers have traded away Robbie Anderson. They've traded away Christian McCaffrey. Did not matter. They stuck to the ground game in this one. Deontay Foreman had a big game. Chuba Hubbard had a big game before he had to leave with an injury. Panthers, it's good for them. We mentioned why would you fire Matt Rule if he's losing? Because now you got an extra win on your belt, or you're going to get the first overall pick in a draft that has a lot of quarterbacks, so that is questionable. And then the Buccaneers, like the Packers, are a bad team right now. The only part of the team that's playing somewhat well is the offensive line. Tom Brady isn't his usual self. He's playing okay, but not like his usual self. Mike Evans dropped a huge touchdown pass in this game that was right in the breadbasket. Leonard Fournette's not picking up as many yards. Vita Vea is not playing as well defensive line. I mean, the whole defense is kind of not playing that well either. So it's bad. And again, this is another one. They can turn it around and be good, but it's going to take a lot of work because it does not look good right now.
Yeah, and with this one, it's almost even more puzzling than the Aaron Rodgers Packers are. Because at least with Aaron Rodgers, what's the big difference? There's no Devontae Adams. The Buccaneers, they had some pieces that left in free agency, but it wasn't anything in, their key core. Chris Godwin's coming off an ACL, but he's back in there. He's practicing. They have Mike Evans. Rob Gronkowski's not there. But Tom Brady has weapons that he's worked with. They still have a pretty good offensive line, and they have, Leonard Fournette's a good running back. And the defense has a lot of good pieces as well. So it's even more puzzling than why the Buccaneers are failing. And I think a lot of it has to do with a lot of distractions outside with Tom Brady. And, I mean, really the distractions are almost all Tom Brady. Tom Brady's now public kind of divorce that's going on. Comments like someone asked him retirement, he has no intentions of retiring. Stuff like that when the man's 45 years old and clearly it's starting to get over the hill. And also he's saying stupid comments like being, NFL in season is like being deployed in the Army or something. And it's just some of the most ridiculous statements and things that it's like the guy's going off the handle. And it's difficult to watch. It's just like I don't know how much more the Buccaneers can put up with this. If this season doesn't go well and they don't somehow make the playoffs, which seems almost impossible considering how bad the NFC South is. But, if they barely do anything and they're out in the wild card round or something like that, or somehow they don't manage to make the playoffs, I mean, what is the Buccaneers' recourse? I mean, you can't really walk away from Tom Brady because he's Tom Brady, I guess. Your whole team is based on that. But you're not seeing any success. So obviously winning will absolve everyone of everything. If they start winning, no one will care. It'll be fine. But while they're losing, things only get worse. Everybody wants to find someone to blame. And the easiest person to kind of look at right now is Tom Brady. And it's not been pretty this year. And everything just looks completely out of sync. And like you said in this game, it wasn't all on him by any means. Mike Evans misses a beautiful pass right in the middle of the field with nobody around him. He just completely drops it. It hits him in the hands. He literally has it in the breadbasket, and it pops out. That stuff is killer and frustrating to anyone. And I don't know what it's going to take for these Buccaneers to get right, but they, again, just like the Packers, they got to find soon or they're not going to be in contention for anything.
Absolutely. The Packers and Bucs are the two teams I'm watching the next couple of weeks to see if they have any signs of life because these are the teams we thought would be, good. Me and you, Cease, we've warned people not to make them Super Bowl contenders, but we thought they'd be good and everything. But this is not what we were expected to be, and maybe it's just the parity of the league because it is pretty weird this year with some teams being better than expected and some teams just being worse. Mm-hmm. Next game up, the Giants beat the Jaguars 23-17. This is one of the more entertaining games of the 1 p.m. Time slot, 1 p.m. Eastern time slot. The Giants had to have 10 points in the fourth quarter to come back and take a 23-17 lead. The Jaguars throw a pass to Christian Kirk, and he gets tackled on the 1 yard line as time expired. The Giants go to 6-1 in this game. They were 3-point underdogs earlier in that week, and the Jaguars continue their skid. Giants at this point, I mean, you win 3 more games, 4 more games, you're probably in the playoffs. You're feeling pretty good about that. Jaguars, I mean, the hot start's really cool. I think this is what the team that has less talent happens as the season goes on. They kind of cool off. They'll probably get a win here or there, but it's not going to be the same as maybe competing for a playoff spot.
Right. I mean, the Giants are 6-1. It's absolutely insane. I mean, they've done everything right. Daniel Jones has looked like well. I wouldn't say he's done anything absolutely amazing by any means, but Brian Dable has known exactly what Daniel Jones's weaknesses and strengths are, and he's played to those strengths at all times. It's something that he did in Buffalo and made Josh Allen into the best quarterback in the NFL. Because Josh Allen coming into Buffalo, there were a lot of question marks. You know, we knew he had a great arm. He was a big guy, but man, when it came to accuracy and things like that, he had no idea what was going on. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, this team, it's all about Brian Daboll being able to maximize the talent that is on the roster, which is limited, and just being able to have Saquon Barkley come back to life and really make this offense hum. Because without him, Daniel Jones wouldn't be able to do anything, especially with the receiving core they have. You know, this team goes through Saquon, and rightfully so. He's one of the best running backs in the league. And the defensive line, and those, you know, honestly, the secondary too, they're doing great as well. So, I mean, 3 more wins, they're 9-1. They win 3 more games, they're pretty much in the playoffs. I mean, with the NFC the way it is, that's a lock for at least a wild card. I mean, 1 more game past that, they beat the right team, like Eagles or Cowboys in the strand, they might win the division at 10 wins. You know, it's very possible. They're one of the best teams in the NFL right now. I don't know what to think of the Giants when it comes to playoff time. Because, I mean, Brian Daboll's doing a great job of maximizing the talent. But the talent compared to other teams that are probably going to be in the playoffs is going to be a great deal less. I don't know if it's going to turn into a Bill Belichick and the Patriots kind of situation where it doesn't really matter what the talent is on the team. It's a matter of the scheme and the coaching and the discipline of it. I mean, maybe we're seeing another revival of that kind of team and mentality. I mean, that would be awesome if we get another team that the coach is so good he can make rags to riches like that easily. I mean, I'm all for it. It makes football really fun to watch a team of no names really compete at the highest level and throw off people who have all the most immense talent in the world. So I'm all in. I'm all for the Giants, but, you know, I need to see them against more elite teams. I need to see them beat convincingly a really good team, or, you know, really kind of start eking out these wins against really impressive teams. Because so far, you know, who they've beaten, the list isn't absolutely great by any means. You know, they had that close game against the Cowboys. They lost. And, you know, from there, it's hard to really say how good the talent is. They're good enough to be a playoff team. I absolutely agree with that. But to make a deep playoff run, I need to see more before I'm convinced of that.
Yeah, I'm with you on seeing more to even pick them in the playoffs to win a game. The good news for their playoff hopes, though, they still have the Texans, the Lions, and then 2 games against the Commanders on the schedule. Those are kind of the easy ones there. Maybe the Colts, too, as another winnable game. So they very well could be 10-11 win team this year, which is not something a lot of people saw coming. The Ravens beat the Browns 23-20, Cease, and maybe they exercised some demons in the process, too. They were blowing fourth quarter leads. But this one they hung on to. They won 23-20. They extend the record to 4-3. They're another team that they just needed to get this monkey off of their back. They needed to just get this win and show that they can hold on to the lead in the fourth quarter, even if it isn't a blowout win over the Browns, who look not that great with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, if there's one team that's more cursed than the Ravens have been in the fourth quarter this year, it's probably the Browns just in their entire existence since they came back to Cleveland. So it's very fitting that would be the team they beat. But the Ravens, you know, they had an okay game. Lamar Jackson didn't do anything absolutely great. You know, he's really cooled off over the last couple weeks after getting off to such a hot start. So they need to get him back on track. The defense looks okay. They limited Nick Chubb. But I mean, it was a closer game than it probably should be with all the talent the Ravens have. I know they have injuries, especially at running back. Um, but I mean, at the end of the day, that doesn't seem to have ever mattered with who the running back for the Ravens is. And ultimately, I mean, they've all the guys back there, whether it be J.K. Dobbins, it be Gus Edwards, hell, even Kenyon Drake. They can run for a lot of yards because Lamar Jackson's also there, and teams are more concerned with what Lamar Jackson's going to do than the actual running backs. So, which is obviously great and shows the level of talent Lamar Jackson has. But this Ravens team, I don't know really what to think of them either. I mean, they did get a win. They did close it out in the fourth quarter. But, I mean, they're losing a lot of close games. And, at times the talent that's supposed to be on this team and this roster seems to disappear. So I want, again, this is another team I want to see more of. I know they're going to be in the playoff picture. But I need to see more from them in these next couple weeks to really say that they're an actual contender.
Definitely agree with that one too. They show they can hold the lead in the fourth quarter against good teams as well as the Browns. You mentioned Gus Edwards. He's back this week. He had 2 touchdowns. If for some reason he is still on your waiver wire, I know we're recording later in the week, pick him up. I've had him on the players to add article on the Game House for a couple weeks now. He's arguably been their best running back over the last couple of years. And yes, he's been banged up. He might miss Thursday, but J.K. Dobbins is going to miss a couple more weeks after this. So even when J.K. Dobbins comes back, this offense supports 2 running backs. You can at least have them on your roster, even if you don't want to start them. The Jets beat the Broncos 16-9. It was a lot of scoring in the first half relatively to the final score. Only 6 second half points that came to the Jets to go from a 10-9 lead to a 16-9 lead. The big story from this game, Cease, was Breece Hall going down with the torn ACL. He had 4 carries for 72 yards and a touchdown. He's really just starting to come into his own as a player. Goes down with a torn ACL. You hate to see that. The Jets 5-2 though, another good story this season. A lot of teams we didn't expect to be good. They're another one that just came out of nowhere seemingly. And the Broncos did not have Russell Wilson for this game, and it did not matter. The offense still looks terrible. And as now being reported that Nathaniel Hackett is on the hot seat if he loses to the Jaguars this week. So we could have something else to talk about next week, Cease.
Ooh, the hot seat. I do love the hot seat. I mean, at this point, it's weird to put a first-year coach on a hot seat, but this offense it's been really bad. And it's historically bad. But you take an offensive-minded head coach and give him the team with, the receivers, a lot of the offensive linemen. You give him Russell Wilson, who, to their credit, the effect is maybe negligible and a lot less than we originally thought. But this team's doing worse than when Vic Fangio was the head coach by a lot. And that's something to really consider, that, your team isn't winning games, your defense is still good, but it wasn't as good as it was before, and your offense also looks like it got worse. So that's really, if you're Vic Fangio, you're probably sitting at home just going, well, this is just awesome to watch this team just completely fall apart. It makes me look better by comparison as well, because a lot of people were just blaming him for the problems. So, yeah, the Broncos look bad. Jets, Breece Hall was really impressive, was probably going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. It's awful. It always is so bad when somebody, tears their ACL or has, a career, a season-ending injury like this. They're hard to come back from. It also takes time next season for them to even get back to where they were usually. And, you hate to see that, especially from someone having such a promising rookie campaign, especially one where you could be the potentially Rookie of the Year. On top of that, though, another huge loss the Jets sustained on offense is they lost Elijah Vera Tucker, their star guard they drafted in the first round 2 years ago. He's out for the season as well with another lower leg injury. So that's huge blows to your offense. The Jets have been a surprise for sure. But it seems like after years and years of basically picking in the top 5 to top 10 every year for years, and then trading away Jamal Adams for basically, a haul that was way better than what Jamal Adams ever provided. It's really all come together, and it's really something that the NFL hopes happens with teams that are really bad and, that do a rebuild the right way. Because for the longest time, we've waited for the Jets to be good, and they just seem to never put together a rebuild the way they need to. And, they pretty much ever since the early Rex Ryan, Mark Sanchez days, the team has just not been very good. And it's been a laughingstock. And it sucks because the Jets are kind of been an interesting franchise throughout their NFL history. And, There's been a lot of losing and a lot of just getting beat up upon by the Bill Belichick-led Patriots. So it's been a good story. I know everyone, I'm rooting for the Jets to do well. I like what they put together. Zach Wilson is leading them to wins, but he's still, in the bottom, bottom five for, EPA per play, per passing attempt. All the more advanced quarterback stats, he's still very low on. But, if they can get the run game going like this and the defense is, all these rookies are really stepping up, it's a bright future with the Jets as long as Zach Wilson pans out and continues to improve. If he can't improve, they're in the situation, a Vikings team is or something like that. You can get a middling quarterback and it pains you because the roster is so good around you and you always feel very limited by it. So I'm hoping that's not the case. I'm hoping he continues to take steps forward. But these are some big losses for the Jets. And then, obviously the Jets did decide to trade for James Robinson from the Jaguars, which I think was an absolutely great trade for them and give them a good running back tandem with him and Michael Carter that can help at least sustain them, kind of weather the storm of losing Breece Hall so early in the season after a hot start.
Yeah, Cece mentioned the injury to Elijah Vera Tucker too. That is going to be even more magnified because they've already lost Mekhi Becton for the season. They're starting Cedric Ogbuehi, who we know from Cincinnati a lot, at right tackle. This is a team that started off hot that I could see fading probably more so than some of the other ones because of Zach Wilson's play, because of the offensive line injuries. Because arguably Vera Tucker and Becton, two very good young players, make this offensive line substantially better.
Yep.
Next game, the Raiders beat the Texans 38-20. If you had Josh Jacobs in fantasy, you're very happy. 143 yards, 3 touchdowns. Raiders should have won this game. They were at home. That's all I got.
Yeah, Josh Jacobs looks like a man possessed. He looks great this year. I don't know where this has been the last couple of years for the Raiders, but he is looking way more talented than we thought he was, especially this far into his career. Usually running backs don't suddenly magically take off like this. But, he's doing great. And I think the Raiders are committing to that, and they're able to set up a lot more stuff in the passing game instead of making Derek Carr force the ball downfield. They can, even if he has a similarly close game like this, Josh Jacobs does. Derek Carr's life becomes 1,000 times easier, and he can get the ball to Devontae Adams, Darren Waller, Hollins, all these, Hunter Renfrow, all the guys they have out there. They have a good amount of weapons now as well. The defense still is questionable a lot of times, but if they get the offense cooking like this, it won't matter. And you get them and the Jaguars. They're two teams that are 2-5, and I think both of them are better than the record, especially the Raiders.
I would agree with that too. I think the Raiders might bounce back here in the next couple of weeks. This was a good way to get started with that. The Seahawks beat the Chargers 37-23. It wasn't really close at any point. The Chargers obviously have their injury issues right now, but just not the performance you want to see out of Justin Herbert in that offense, having to battle back, scoring just 23 points with 9 coming in the fourth quarter when they were, Seahawks were in prevent defense basically. Geno Smith continues the They Wrote Me Off tour, and he's playing very, very well. Kenneth Walker, the rookie running back out of Michigan State, is having a very, very good season so far after he got over that hernia injury. 168 yards and 2 touchdowns. I would say surprising in the result was 2 touchdown win for the Seahawks, but the Seahawks look good.
They really do. Talk about a team that, we're talking Vegas is sitting there. We're going to see teams hitting their over all these bad teams with these very low win totals. The Jets are 1 win away. I believe the Seahawks are 1 win away from all their totals, from their win totals. So we could see Vegas paying out a lot of money to a lot of these diehard fans of these teams that no one expected really early in the season. So, it's great to see. I had all the doubts in the world about this Seattle Seahawks team. You'll read every article. You look at Geno Smith or, whoever's going to start there for Seattle, and it was a mess. They said it doesn't matter who it is. It's not going to go well. But from there, Pete Carroll really has done a good job. They did, things a little different this year. They invested in the offensive line for once, using a first-round pick. They had a really good draft. Tariq Woolens looked really well, too. So, the rookies are stepping up. Kenneth Walker is obviously doing great. He's now kind of the front runner for Rookie of the Year after these last couple of performances. So they are performing very well. The rookies have really matured fast and are really big contributors to the success of this team. Something that no one saw. And I mean, we always talk that, the Seahawks, I'm never going to say, they're going to just lose every game. They're going to win 2 games. But we knew they were going to play hard and they were going to play close games, but we never expected this sudden influx of talent to hit them and be so successful so soon. And honestly, getting rid of Russell Wilson has been one of the best things they could have ever done, which is just absolutely hilarious in hindsight. So good for them. I'm excited for the Seahawks. At this point, are you arguing the Seahawks, are better than the Rams in the Rams' current state? I think at that point, we start making that argument. I think we might start making the argument that they might be very well in the race for the NFC West, which is something absolutely insane. I would never say, but every team has shown a lot of flaws, and the Seahawks are the one team that all their flaws haven't seemed to come into play, and they seem to have been able to completely overcome them, and everyone has played at a way higher level than we expected. So I'm not going to call them the front runner, but they are very well in the hunt here, and it's really going to come down to how well they do when they get to the divisional games. So great for them. Chargers, I mean, they're hurt, but I mean they just play terribly. They cannot stop the run, which was a huge weakness we knew. They spent all this time trying to address over the offseason, and they have been horrible. They're getting gashed on the run game week after week, and it's hard to watch at times. The team was such a big problem they just didn't address. Now they're passing, defense is going to be worse. J.C. Jackson's out for a while. They had to put an air cast on his leg. So it's stuff you don't like to see. And, I mean, Mike Williams had a really nasty-looking ankle injury, so we'll see how long he's out. Keenan Allen's taken 6 weeks to heal from a hamstring injury. I don't know how that works. That's one heck of a hamstring injury. And the offense just looks very unimaginative, and it's not explosive at all. It looks like an offense. You have Justin Herbert, who everyone pretty much says is like if you could draw up a quarterback and the talents and what they would be, they would draw a picture of Justin Herbert basically. And he doesn't do anything wrong. It's just the offense doesn't do anything impressive. Like, they don't look great. They don't look explosive. They don't look methodically, they're going to convert every time. It looks like the most, all the critiques and everything you got for Zach Taylor and the Bengals early in the year is what the Chargers are looking like now. They're just looking unimaginative. They don't look aggressive. They just look like they're going out there. They're going to dump the ball off to Austin Eckler, hope he makes a play, and go from there. Every once in a while, they'll give a downfield shot to Mike Williams, but it's never really anything that exciting. So I get the Chargers have injuries all over the place, and it's unfortunate, but, I mean, let's try something here. I mean, at this point, if they're blowing the talent on this team, because we're talking Super Bowl was the expectation for this team a lot of times. A deep playoff run. They have everything they need to compete. They signed Khalil Mack. They signed J.C. Jackson. They signed all these talented guys. They have such a young core. Justin Herbert's going to be the best quarterback in the NFL in 2 years. So all that is not happening, and it's sad because they have all the talent in the world in order to do that.
Yeah, very sad for them. And Cecil, you're right. I mean, if we're going based on how NFC West teams look right now, Seahawks look the best by far. Like, it's not even close. So I don't know. Something to keep in mind is people might be making bets in the future for NFC West odds and everything. But also, we have the Chiefs beating the 49ers, Cease, 44-23. This game was a very, very close spread. I think it was like 2 points. And the Chiefs come out and just blow out the 49ers on the road. Seems like Patrick Mahomes got more in tune with his wide receivers, specifically some of the new guys because of Tyreek Hill leaving. And they also, in the interviews, they said they played Call of Duty Warzone together, and that was a bonding experience, and that they started to gel. So good for the Chiefs there. And also make sure to check out the Game House's interview of Juju Smith-Schuster. 7 receptions, 124 yards, and 1 touchdown after being interviewed by the Game House. He's got to do an interview with the Game House every week, I think, at this point. But
exactly. Thank God. I mean, for all those NFL players out there, we'll interview you, and your stats will balloon. Trust me.
That's a guarantee.
It is a guarantee. We're guaranteeing it right here. But maybe COD's a conducive force for good in the NFL. I don't know. Maybe Kyler Murray is on something. Maybe it's not Kyler Murray. Maybe
Mm.
if Cliff Kingsbury stopped being so resistant to COD and would just strap on the headset, play a couple rounds of Warzone with them, maybe all their beef, all their problems would resolve. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, it's possible. I mean, if it's good enough for the Chiefs, why isn't it good enough for Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray? That's my question.
You're trying to say the guy who lost to Texas Tech with Patrick Mahomes as his quarterback, he went 5-7 with Patrick Mahomes, is the reason that the Cardinals stink? I mean, wow, that would be really
I
surprising,
mean, it's
Cease.
got to be Call of Duty, man. I mean, there's no way. I mean, again, he's too cool to be fired. You can't fire a guy who looks that cool on the sidelines.
Well, he's too
Oakley
cool.
shades.
He's too cool to be playing Call of Duty. That's a problem. He doesn't know how. Like he's always had something better to do with his life than play Call of Duty. He doesn't know what it's about.
Yeah, he just doesn't get it. He doesn't get football. It seems. But yeah, I mean, good for the Chiefs to really get Juju Smith-Schuster out there. Marquise Valdez-Scantling had some good plays. You know, they're vibing. They're doing a good job. I mean, the deep shots that have not been there. McCole Hardman had a couple good plays. Everything's coming back together for him, and it's good. It's good to see. Is it going to last? I don't know. 49ers have a lot of injuries. It seems like they got distracted by their own hype in this game. The Christian McCaffrey trade was a big storyline, obviously, going into the game, and I think that really messed up their flow on offense as well. I'm not hitting the panic button. Chiefs are a really good team. They are a really good offense, and I think the 49ers are trying to figure out what offense is going to be best for them. They're not out of the playoff hunt by any means because, like you said, the NFC West is up for grabs. Seahawks look like the best team, but they're not unbeatable.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, the NFC wildcard slots, I mean, you probably have the NFC Beast. You've got, I think, Eagles, Giants, and Cowboys are all going to make it, which is something I would have never thought in my life. And then from there, I mean, it's kind of a weird race of I don't know who the hell is going to get it. I mean, nobody from the NFC South is going to get it. It's either got to be pretty much the Vikings are not going to win the NFC North at this rate. It's going to be the Vikings. It's got to be either the Packers step it up and get that extra wild card, or it's going to be one of the NFC West team that doesn't win the division. So it could be Seahawks, Rams, or it could be 49ers. So I mean, they're not out of the hunt by any means. It's an AFC opponent, which also helps them a lot in the wild card tiebreakers. But, I mean, the offense and Jimmy G, I don't know what the hell goes on with him. I don't know what these meetings are even like on Monday mornings with him because you watch some of these throws and you're just like, I have no idea what he was planning on doing. I don't know if he has any idea what he thought he was doing. It just looks like he's just throwing the ball into blank space. So it's not great. I don't know what the hell happened to Jimmy Garoppolo. I think he just decided, I'm going to take a vacation because I know I'm going to get traded and don't really care. And he's looked bad, and he is really holding back a 49ers team with a really great defense. And now another really great playmaker on offense with Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, we'll see how he keeps continuing to be used after getting more work than I honestly thought he would get in a first game. But that's good for him. He can grow from that and see if the offense changes. Maybe they thought because they didn't have the running ability of Trey Lance, they needed just a different element to the offense. Bringing in Christian McCaffrey to kind of open things up for Jimmy Garoppolo. Who knows what will happen in the future with that? But definitely with you, they're not out of it, and I do not want to predict the NFC playoff picture or have to have my picks held to any fire at this point because it is messed up. Totally messed up.
Yep.
All right, Sunday Night Football, Cease. The Dolphins were on Sunday Night Football for the third time since NBC Sports bought the rights back in like 2004, 2005. Kind of weird because they've had some good years too, which just makes you wonder about that stuff. But the sloppy game, 16-10, no points were scored in the second half. You could have turned it off at halftime. You would have missed nothing. I think this is, for the Dolphins, it was good to get the win with Tua back and just to get back on track, get back in the win column here. The Steelers don't think they're playing for anything too much this year. I mean, they probably still do, but I don't know, just good win for the Dolphins to get back on track. Tua did mention before the game that he is focusing on his long-term health and that he would not take as many hits, and then immediately in this game had like 3 different plays where he was running over people to try to get first down. So he came back in the interview after the game and was saying, I didn't really do a good job of listening to myself. Like, I got to actually figure this out and go back to the drawing board. Tua, stay healthy, man. Just don't, like, you're not Tim Tebow, you're not Cam Newton, you're much smaller than that. You've had so many injuries in the past. the Dolphins want to see you play. Everyone wants to figure out if you're the guy. I still think you are, but man, that is the scariest thing ever. He comes back from that scary injury and starts trying to run over linebackers to try to get first downs in the first half against the Steelers.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. I mean, I'll give it to him. I mean, that competitive nature will never be questioned in that man. So, I mean, good for him. I hope he doesn't get hurt, just, for the sake of the Dolphins, the NFL, and most importantly for himself. I mean, no one wants to see someone have to quit in the NFL who has talent to be a starting quarterback. It could be a really good one because he gets too many hits in the head. But yeah, I mean, the Dolphins win a pretty boring game. The Steelers, Kenny Pickett, it would be, oh, that's a good throw, to that was a horrible throw. Just things where he just throws a route. He throws a very, not he doesn't zip the ball in. He just kind of lobs it there. And, all these people in the secondary, the cornerbacks, the safeties, just drive on it. I mean, they watch it coming and they see it, they read it, he telegraphs it, and they just jump the route while the receiver's just sitting there waiting for the ball. And there were a couple of those plays, especially one at the end of the game, that really cost the Steelers. They had a chance to win, and yeah, they just couldn't get it done. So ugly football for both these teams. And I'll give the Steelers this. I mean, they're going to be in a lot of games this year. I mean, they're not going to get blown out a lot. They got blown out against Buffalo, but it's just not going to happen that way. Mike Tomlin's just not going to let it. It's basically just like I said about Seattle and Pete Carroll. They're going to be competitive and they're going to fight you the entire game. For them, for Mike Tomlin, there's no such thing as a rebuild year. There's no such thing as, we can lose some games. We want a higher draft pick anyway. That's not his mentality. That's probably what's driven a lot of his success at this point. But I mean, don't ever count the Steelers out of the game. I'm counting them out of the playoff picture. I mean, at this point, 2-5, that's going to be real hard for them to make really much noise. But, I mean, any team that goes in and thinks, wow, this is an easy W, better be ready for a different kind of game because, let's be honest, the Steelers are going to hit you. They're a nasty, aggressive football team, and they're going to make you play for all four quarters. So don't sleep on that.
Definitely something to keep in mind too. If you're going to play some bets the rest of this year, the only blowout game they've had is the Bills. They did lose to the Browns by 12, but it wasn't like a blowout. Otherwise, they play teams close, and that's what's going to happen. They're still a team that's going to fight pretty much to the death, and they did so in this game. They beat the spread in this game. Dolphins got the win though. I think both teams are not both teams. I think the Dolphins are pretty happy with the result, and the Steelers did better than expected. All right, Monday Night Football, Cease. We had a bad weather game. It was kind of fun in that regard. The Bears beat the Patriots 33-14 on the road. Again, the Patriots were favored by 8 points, I think, at one point last week. So that makes it a little bit more interesting. But this is really a tale of two different teams. So I'm going to start with the Bears real quick, get through it. Justin Fields had his best game as a pro, and I think it's because they actually ran the ball with them and had to because of the weather, and they should treat offense like that in the future for him because we can sit here and talk about his struggles over the last year and a half, but also if you're not going to use some of the gifts that he has, what are you doing? You're just going to waste his career. So that is good. That was his best game as a pro. Very good. They got the win. They're 3-4. That's awesome. Patriots go into this game, and the reports are coming out that Mac Jones is going to be the starter, and Mac Jones is the guy, and then it comes out right before the game they might play both quarterbacks. So Mac Jones plays for a while, throws an interception. And the interception actually hit the Skycam wire, which is coming out today, the Skycam wire from the ESPN, and then was intercepted. So it may not even totally been his fault, but he gets pulled for Bailey Zappi. Zappi goes in, 14 of 22, 185 yards, 1 touchdown. Gives him a little spark. It doesn't really get him all the way back, but I don't know if I agree with the whole half and half thing Bill Belichick is doing here. I think you need to pick a guy and stick with him, and I don't care which one it is at this point. If you think Bailey Zappi's that, go with him. If you think it's Mac Jones, go with him. But now there's this quarterback controversy around a team that made the playoffs last year and has enough talent to do the same thing this year, even though it doesn't look the greatest right now. But it's not looking pretty. I mean, I know I'm more of a Zappi guy, but I would rather them just pick one, no matter who it was.
Yeah, you can't rotate quarterbacks. It's one of these things I've been listening a lot. It's Bill Belichick's obsession with everybody, every position, everybody on the team. It's on the same even keel. Is going to be treated the exact same way, and you're all replaceable. And I mean, to a certain extent, most people are. Even you look at the two of them, they're replaceable players, right? But you got to go with a guy. You got to have somebody who's a leader out there. It seems like we talked about it a lot in this podcast so far is, what traits of quarterback are important. When a quarterback, gets kind of in his own way, it can lead to the whole team failing a lot of times. And I mean, you've got two guys that to me are virtually the same talent level. Maybe they do different things. Maybe they come from different backgrounds. I feel like the result is going to be pretty close to the same. It's pretty negligible, the difference between the two.
Mhm.
If I'm the Patriots, I like Bailey Zappi. I think I've seen more in the limited relief that I saw from Mac Jones all of last year. But maybe you test the trade market out there. Maybe you pick, what can you get from Mac Jones? If Bill Belichick really thinks, I like Bailey Zappi, I want to stick with him, Robert Kraft's probably not going to say no. Let's be honest, he trusts him. And, I mean, you call the quarterback needy Colts and go, hey, I've got Mac Jones. What are you willing to give me for him? Do you get a first-round pick from the Colts for it? I mean, you very well could. Could you somehow get even more from Jim Irsay who's desperate? It's possible. Now, is any of that going to happen? Probably not. But, I mean, if you want to be an aggressive, NFL team and you've got a QB controversy that you really don't want to have, and, you've really sat there and go, I think one of these guys is my guy. There's a lot of quarterback needy teams out there that are desperate to find their guy. Trade one of them away, get some draft capital, build your team up, and, see what happens with that other guy on another team. It's just that simple. But, yeah, the Bears, Justin Fields really got it going. He's not going to do a lot through the air, and, we've seen that so far. So play to his strengths. Like you said, just play every game like it's a rain game. It seems like the Bears offense thrives a lot better, and honestly, the defense came alive a lot in this game and took advantage of Mac Jones in the first half.
Yeah, I do want to see that from the Bears moving forward. Playing to his strengths. I saw people give I think Luke Getzey's the offense coordinator credit for using his strengths in this game, and I'm like, yes, but is he going to do that next game when the weather isn't an issue? That's the question I have. They've found this level of success. They can run the ball. They've run the ball on so many teams. Add Justin Fields to that running attack with Khalil Herbert and with David Montgomery, and just see what happens. Yeah, and don't make it like a triple option thing. Don't make it old school. Just make it read options and rollouts and everything. And I really do think he can be successful even this year, even with the lack of help at offensive line and wide receiver. And hopefully Zappi's the guy for the Patriots. I'm a big Zappi guy, so we'll see what happens with that. All right, let's go to our picks for Week 8, Cease. It's hard to believe we are already going to be on Week 8 this week. Thursday Night Football has an interesting game because we haven't had the most interesting games on Thursday Night Football probably since the Bengals, Dolphins, or Chargers, Chiefs to start the season. But Baltimore Ravens favored by 2 points on the road at Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Cease, who you got?
Baltimore Ravens to win and cover. Bucks. I mean, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of the Ravens. I don't think they're elite right now by any means, but they're able to win games, and they've shown a lot more on offense than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have of late. So I'm going to have them win and cover.
I do too. This is one of the things where, if you go based on everything we've seen, Ravens win and cover, even on the road, is the pick. If you want to believe in something we haven't seen this year and just believe in Tom Brady, you can pick that. I would not be surprised if the Bucs end up figuring some of it out this game, but based on everything we've seen, it's got to be the Ravens. All right, Sunday morning, Denver Broncos versus the Jacksonville Jaguars in London. Jaguars favored by 3.
Yeah, give me the Jaguars to win and cover. I think the Broncos are just in disarray right now. There's a lot of weird fan base in London for the Jaguars because they get sent over there all the time too. So I don't know how much of a factor they'll play, but I just think they're both not very good teams. But I think the Jacksonville Jaguars have done more things, and I think Trevor Lawrence is getting, kind of got back on track this last game, even though it was a loss. So I like the Jaguars to win and cover.
I do as well. I, again, have not seen enough out of the Broncos with or without Russell Wilson, and the defense kind of gives me some hesitation here, and the Jaguars skid. But you know what? This is like a virtual home game for the Jaguars. They're used to being in London. They'll be able to figure it out. Sunday afternoon, the battle for Pennsylvania. Pittsburgh Steelers at the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles favored by 10.5.
Yeah, in Philly, give me the Eagles to. I'm going to go win and cover. I just think it's in Philly. Pittsburgh, when they play the Eagles traditionally in Philadelphia, it doesn't turn out very well for them, honestly. And like I said, they're going to play hard by all means, but I just don't think that they're going to be able to really put up good numbers against a pretty good Eagles offense, and then also I think they're really going to struggle against a very good Eagles secondary and defensive line because I think Kenny Pickett's just going to throw one or two interceptions, especially to Darius Slay. So, um, if there's a prop bet in this game, I mean, I would probably see what the odds are for Darius Slay interception if you're into that kind of thing because there's a good chance that's going to happen.
Yeah, yeah. I'm going Eagles to win, but I'm going Steelers with the points there. That's a pretty big spread for, like I said, the only team they've been blown out by is the Bills, and I do think the Bills are a step ahead of anyone in the sport right now. There's a lot of pride in this game for the Penn State of Pennsylvania and everything. It's not like the biggest rivalry, but it's kind of like somewhat of a rivalry. So I think the Steelers might keep it close in between that 10.5 points. Arizona Cardinals at Minnesota Vikings. Vikings favored by 3.5, and see this is a Patrick Peterson revenge game.
Yep, all the way. Give me the Vikings to win and cover. I don't trust the Cardinals at all, and the Vikings, they aren't absolutely great, but again, not at night. Kirk Cousins will thrive, and there's a lot of good pieces on the Vikings team.
I agree. Win and cover for the Vikings, as you said. Kirk Cousins non-primetime game, and Cece, you didn't mention Call of Duty for Arizona,
You're right.
so I don't know.
You bump the spread up a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly. Go move the line, manually move the line, and bet the Vikings to cover 20 points because that's what's going to happen because of Call of Duty. Do not do that's not real advice. Do not do that. Do not do that. Miami Dolphins favored by 3 at the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, give me the Miami Dolphins to win and cover. I mean, they look like a team that is gonna get better. Like Tua's in another game, and the Lions' defense sucks. So it's kind of that simple at this point. As much as I hate to just count out Dan Campbell and just go, it looks pretty over. I mean, it looks pretty over at this point. And they won win against the Commanders, and last couple games they're just getting blown out. Yeah, I can't confidently say that the Lions are going to be super close in this game.
I can't either. Dolphins, I think getting Tua back, like that was a good first game back. He's obviously got to change the way he plays a little bit, but you could see some elements of the offense working even if it didn't work totally. And I think they'll be able to win and cover on the road against the NFL's worst defense. Las Vegas Raiders favored by 2 on the road against the New Orleans Saints.
Give me the Raiders to win and cover here. I really like what the Raiders, they're on a roll. I think they're going to get Josh Jacobs going again. And like the Raiders start and how 0-3, and then, they play the Chiefs. I mean, it was pretty hard to watch because we knew the Raiders team was a lot better than what had happened. And obviously they had that fluky loss against the Cardinals where they let the game get away from them. But I just think they're just a much better setup team. Famous Jameis, Laser Eyes is going to be back, hopefully starting in this game. I think that'll help them out as well. But I mean, I think the Saints team's just a little too banged up at times. So I'm going Raiders to win and cover the small spread.
I am too. It makes me like these lines seem like they're too easy, and that's what's kind of concerning me so far. But I'm going Raiders to win and cover. Like it's just. I feel like we're gonna come back next week and be like, yeah, we got like 4 picks against the spread, right? But whatever. But yeah, they're a more talented team right now. The injuries for the Saints are really hampering them, and they just don't look like the same team without Sean Payton, without Jameis Winston. So Raiders win and cover. New England Patriots favored by 2 at the New York Jets.
Give me the New England Patriots to win and cover this one. I think they're going to be reeling a little bit from Breece Hall's loss and Elijah Vera Tucker's loss. I think that's going to create a lot of problems on offense for them. And there's one thing that Bill Belichick's good at doing: it's exploiting weaknesses, and especially against the Jets. This is going to be a big game for Zach Wilson that he's going to need to step up in. There's going to be a lot of question marks going into it. And I think, Bill Belichick also has a great history of just ruining the confidence of young quarterbacks. He's going to force Zach Wilson to try to make the plays. I think he's going to really just limit the running game really quickly in this game. And I trust with their offense enough to be able to beat the Jets at this point. So it's going to be a close one, but 2 points is too close for me. I think it's going to be a field goal. So give me the Patriots to win and cover.
I'm going the Jets. I mean, if you're going to give me 2 points, they're at home. I think they're the better team so far this season. Give me the Jets. I know Belichick is the greatest of all time, but at the same time, this situation with the Patriots quarterback is not good. It does not seem like it's conducive to long-term success, short-term success, any success. The players themselves have admitted that Ramon J. Stevenson said in an interview that they had no idea that Bailey Zappi was going to come in. It seems sort of like there's some disorganization, and they need to get that cleaned up. So, Jets to win with 2 points. Chicago Bears at the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys favored by 9.5.
Yeah, give me Dallas to. I'm gonna have Dallas win, obviously. Man, that's a big spread. You know what? Give me the Dallas Cowboys to cover as well. It's a big spread. It makes me uncomfortable. It's that big, but at the same time, you got Dak Prescott another weekend getting more used to the offense, and I just think the Bears will probably go back to what they didn't work before, and they'll make a lot of key turnovers and mistakes, and the Cowboys will get really good field advantage to be able to capitalize. So give me Cowboys to win and cover.
Me too. The same reason too. It's just I think the Bears are going to go back to what they had been doing, not what actually worked, and for that reason, I'm out. But if this is a game where they show that like they actually run the ball, then I'll be wrong, and that's fine. Like I can understand why that would happen. But Cowboys to win and cover. That defense is for real, and they'll be able to shut down the Bears and get the win. Carolina Panthers at the Atlanta Falcons. Falcons favored by 4.5.
Give me the Falcons to win. I'm taking the Panthers with the points. I think they're going to play hard. I think PJ Walker is going to be the starter going for the rest of the season and showed some life in the last game, obviously. So I think it's going to be close, but I think the Falcons are going to get back on track and just try to really shorten the game like they've been doing very well so far. So Falcons to win, but I'll take the Panthers with the points.
Okie dokie. I'm doing the same pick here. I'm doing the Falcons to win, the Panthers with the points. I do think this could be a spot for a Panthers upset, and I think they played well last week. I mean, it's not as focused on Christian McCaffrey. It's kind of more spread out. PJ Walker looked good. Matt Rule isn't there. There's a lot of reasons why I think the Panthers can win. Also, the Falcons, as you mentioned, AJ Terrell, their guy who's really good corner, top corner on the team, maybe even in the NFC South. I don't know. Went down with an injury last game against the Bengals, and also Casey Hayward was down with an injury, another corner. I'm not saying PJ Walker is going to be able to take advantage of that fully, but it should be a close game. For that reason, Falcons win, Panthers with the points. Cecil, Tennessee Titans favored by 2 at the Houston Texans.
That's it. Okay, give me the Titans to win and cover. I get the Houston Texans have played teams well so far, but you're giving me 2 points for the Titans over the Texans, who play hard, but again, I don't think the Titans are going to have that much trouble with them, especially if you're only saying they're going to win by 2 points. I'm not sure what Vegas is seeing, so I'm going with the Titans to win and cover.
Yeah, I'm thinking about making a little casino run here. See, Titans favored by 2. I mean, that's crazy. So, yes, they play games tight. Yes, they like to grind out the clock. Yes, they're never a team that's going to be favored by 17 points like the Bills sometimes are, but they should be able to win by 2. They should be able to win by a field goal against Texans on the road.
Like, how many games, honestly, are won by 1 or 2 points? Not that many. And then most of the time, it's a 3 or 4 point margin. So, a lot of times, like we say, anything like 2 points is basically the margin for, like a home favorite a lot of times. It's basically a pick 'em. And obviously, they're getting +2 because they're so bad. But either the Texans are going to win this game outright, or they're gonna win by a field goal. That's just that simple. So if you're someone who's diehard on the Texans on this one, just bet the money line. Let's be honest here. Don't bet the 2 point spread.
I would hope they would. Yeah, but yeah, for us both Titans. I mean, I don't understand these lines this week sometimes, but it's all right. Titans to win and cover. San Francisco 49ers favored by 2 at the Los Angeles Rams.
Give me the 49ers to win and cover because it's so close. Rams don't really have a fan base, so I think that'll definitely play in this one. I think there'll be a lot of 49ers fans in the stands. I think there'll be another week of getting Christian McCaffrey integrated into the offense. The defense is still really good despite the injuries. And again, need to see something from the Rams besides just let's try to get the ball to Cooper Kupp. And that's their whole offense, and the defense still isn't doing anything. So Yeah, I got to go with, I'm not super high on the 49ers right now, but I'm higher on them than I am with the Rams. So,
Yeah, I'm going Rams. They're coming off a bye. They're at home. I don't think either team's playing particularly well. I think if Sean McVay has a week off to maybe prepare to throw the ball to someone other than Cooper Cup, this offense can maybe get going again. Matthew Stafford gets another week to kind of get that arm to heal up. So I'll go Rams. I mean, I'm not confident in this pick. I'm not saying go to the casino make this pick, but I'll take the Rams in the home upset. New York Giants at the Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks favored by 3.
this is going to be actually, I would never have thought if you gave me this game at the beginning of the year, or even like 3 weeks in, I'd be like, this is going to be an awful game. Why would I ever watch this? I'm excited. This is be a great game.
Yeah.
It's in Seattle,
Yes.
3 points to Seattle,
Mm-hmm.
-3. Um, Give me the Seahawks to win. Big part of that's that they're at home. It's a hell of a fan base always to play against. And believe it or not, I think they somehow have more talent on the team than the Giants do. And I think it's just going to be a really good game. But give me the Seahawks to win and cover at home.
I have the same pick. Giants traveling across country. Um, I I don't want to say they're like fluke cease, but I don't want to say that they're as good as the record says they are. Like I know the old quote is "You are what your record says you are," and that makes sense if you're trying to motivate a team or try to make the playoffs. But like they look like they're a good team, not like a great team, not an elite team like the record would indicate. So I'm going Seahawks. I'm a big fan of Geno Smith's revenge tour here. He formerly played for the Giants. This is a revenge game for him. So Seahawks to win and cover.
I didn't even see the Geno Smith revenge angle coming in.
Yeah, there you go. All right, Washington Commanders at the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts favored by 3. And see, here's an angle for this game. Yes, we know it's Sam Ellinger for against Taylor Heineke. That's kind of cool and messed up in the same way. But we have Jim Irsay saying that Dan Snyder should be forced to sell the team. So we got some owner controversy. I don't know if they're going to be too friendly with in the owners' boxes.
Hey, rough and rowdy, center of the field at halftime. Let's get it going. Jim Irsay, Daniel Snyder.
How about
I
that?
would pay a lot of money for that.
How about that's the coin toss? Why not?
Done.
Yeah.
I mean, let's make it interesting. Let's get these owners more involved. Um, but yeah, wow, this is a horrible game. I would not pick this at all. If anybody is going to the casino, I would not pick it
Yep.
because this team there's so many factors of what can go horribly wrong for these teams. Um, I'm going to go with the Commanders to win here and pull off the upset. Because Taylor Heineke is not great, but it's a roller coaster, and at least he's won some games he may not have supposed to have, and he knows what it takes. Sam Ellinger, I don't know what the hell the Colts are going to do, and it's going to be somehow better. I mean, they're just going to try to focus on stopping the run, obviously, and somehow make Sam Ellinger have a great game, and I don't see that happening, so give me the Commanders with the points.
I'm doing the same thing, mostly the same reasons here. The Sam Ellinger thing is kind of, part of it. Taylor Heineke, again, I think he's brought some life to the Commanders, too. They have these wide receivers that are talented. He's obviously using them. There's going to be maybe some interceptions he throws, but there's also going to be touchdowns. I'm going to go with them. Again, I'm with you at the same point here. Like, I don't like the pick. I'm doing it. I don't know. It's one of those games that you would, I pick every game picks against the spread. We pick every game on the show picks against the spread, on the show. And, our record sometimes gets deflated because of that when other people will skip these games. We're going to give you the pick. We'll say we're not confident in it, but yeah, that's just how it works.
Yeah, do not bet this.
Yeah, we'll have like a DNB, do not bet this. Green Bay Packers at the Buffalo Bills, Sunday Night Football, a game that probably before the season we were thinking this could be a really good game, but now the Bills are favored by 10.5.
As they should, honestly, considering where the Packers are at. Give me the Bills. I can't believe I'm saying this, against Aaron Rodgers. Give me the Bills to win and cover. I think they just get off to a lead, and Aaron Rodgers is going to have to throw the ball probably a lot, and it's just not going to be very effective, unfortunately. So, Bills to win and cover here.
I have the same pick. I've been told by the Game House's resident Packers fan, Ben Hendricks, that he has a good feeling about this game and that he
Hmm.
would. And I asked him, "Will you please elaborate?" And he's like, "Well, I think they'll at least be able to fit it within the 10.5 point spread." And I was like, "Do you want to bet on this game?" And he said, "No." So he's not putting his money where his mouth is. He just says he has a good
Yeah.
feeling about it, which means nothing to me. I told him I
How
would
many
bring it
times has he picked the Packers to win the Super Bowl now?
every single year he's been at the game house. So,
Hmm.
yeah. So I don't think his like if the Packers come back and win and he wants to talk trash, that's fine. But at the same point, if you're not willing to put your money where your mouth is, or even to fully stand behind it and just say I kind of have a feeling about it, then it doesn't matter. Sorry, Bills win and cover. I'll be if Ben gets to be happy because the Packers keep it close. Good for him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all hoping it's a competitive game because I want to watch a good football matchup that I was promised by NBC before the season started. I want that. I want a good matchup. But from everything I've seen so far, I'm going to see a lot of Aaron Rodgers, hands on hips, just looking frustrated. I think there should be an over under on how many times he makes this like frustrated hands up in the air throw on third down. I think it's probably the spread should probably be over under 5 times. So
Yeah.
take that. Maybe if Vegas is smart, maybe you get a couple side prop bets on the amount of times Aaron Rodgers, size or looks in contempt, and then also maybe a nice little side bet on Tom Brady over under on Microsoft Surface tablets broken per game.
There you go. I would. Oh boy, I don't know what I'd bet on those. That'd be tough. I mean, Tom Brady broken tablets. Oh
It's
boy.
all based on game flow.
Yeah, you can't predict if he's gonna have a good game, bad game, whether he's gonna how many tablets he's gonna break per week. Um, but yeah, that's again. If you want to make comments like that, put your money where your mouth is. I would love to see a good game. I would even say it'd be good for the league if the Packers win. Even maybe good for the Bills because it looks like they're peaking like really early, and that kind of concerns me as someone who has money on them winning the Super Bowl. But yes, Bills for both of us. Bills to win and cover. Monday Night Football sees we have the Cincinnati Bengals at the Cleveland Browns. Bengals favored by 3.5 points right now, seemingly finding their stride. It is a Halloween game with two teams that are, well, one's orange and black, one's kind of close to orange and black. It's a very themed game.
And it's very themed. It's like ESPN really thought this through.
Yeah.
Um, I'm going to give the Bengals a win and cover here. As the away team. Um, I always have concerns when we play the Browns and the Bengals do because it always turns into some bullshit out of nowhere. Last year's game in Cincinnati was just a absolute shit show of, it was a pick six on the first drive for the Bengals, and from there, Nick Chubb just literally beat the shit out of the defense. So, to put it all very plainly on this podcast, that is always a concern for me. It's concerning that, the defense is missing their primary run defenders as well right now. Will DJ Reader or Logan Wilson play? It's up in the air. It's probably trending a little bit more towards doubtful. Wouldn't really risk getting them back for this Browns game. Um, but this Browns team looks in a way worse place than the Browns teams they played last year. Um, I think if they can just really limit Nick Chubb and force Jacoby Brissett to try to make plays, I think the Bengals defense will be able to manage it on the back end. Honestly, there's one thing: Baker Mayfield is better than Jacoby Brissett is.
Mhm.
I will defend that to this day right now, especially in the Brown system that they had created for him. So I think the Bengals should win and cover. I'm not going to say it's going to be a very in-hand game, but I'm confident enough that they can win by 4 points.
I'm going the same thing. They should win and cover. This is another one again. Like I get that sometimes Vegas, sometimes like fans will be like, hey, the Bengals lost 2 games to them last year. Or I don't think that matters. Like I'm going based on what I see on paper this year, and what I see is the Bengals have gotten a lot better. The Browns are a late 57-yard field goal away from being one-win team right now. They don't look good. Their whole offense is Nick Chubb. The defense is definitely not playing as well as expected for how much money and draft capital they've spent on it. So Bengals should win and cover. I'm kind of like as I said, like I don't want to get ahead of myself here. I feel like the Browns will come out of nowhere again like they did last year, but I try to stick to this year and what is happening on the field. That's why I'm going Bengals to win and cover. Cecil, any final thoughts for the week?
I really hope the Bengals win. I'm always terrified of Cleveland Browns games. Honestly, more than Steelers games. Because for some reason they're just a team. If they're even marginally good, it turns into the most ridiculous game of all time. And you can go through the stat lines for a lot of these and just go, "Wow, I don't know how this became a game, but it does." There's a team where Derek Anderson came out of nowhere and scored like 40 something points. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm concerned. My girlfriend's going to be passing out Halloween candy at our home, and I will probably be screaming expletives at a television for all the children of the neighborhood to hear. So to all those parents, sorry in advance. And to ESPN, this is your doing. So
Oh
thank you.
boy, yeah. I think the parents of the kids might be okay with it. And doesn't trick or treating end before the game starts?
I don't know. I mean, 8:20's kickoff. I mean, I
Six.
don't know. I don't even know. When it comes to trick or treat, I don't know. For
Okay.
some reason, I have this thing like maybe it goes to like, isn't it always at night? Usually, you're trick or treating. It's nighttime, right?
It's like 6 to 8 usually, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I
Okay.
really don't. I bought candy because we needed to buy candy, and that's all I really know.
All right. Well, yeah. Well, good luck to you, and make sure that no one gets mad at you for cursing at the TV. I think they'll understand, though. I don't have any final thoughts. I'm just here to remind everyone to like the podcast, subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know if there's anything you want us to talk about in the future. We're more than happy to do that. For now, everyone, thanks for listening.
Right, guys.